We did get a chance to speak with Bob Bradley right after the draft. It had just finished up, and basically we got going with, I essentially asked him, how are you feeling, Bob, now that this whole process is just wrapping up?
Feel good. It's been a lot of work, good process. I think the discussions on the inside have been detailed. Obviously, you think of two things as you go through this process. You think of guys that you're comfortable with on the field and what they can bring. And then you think of value and what that means when you continue to have discussions with other teams.
Mm-hmm. There is that balancing act, certainly. I see a few names here that are very intriguing to me. It's a good mix of Marco Arena with a lot of experience, still a young man, maybe a little bit of a higher cap hit than we've seen at times in this. Roughly around $650,000 in cap space. Was there a limit you put on yourself? Did you think much about money going into this?
We're fortunate that with John and Will Kuntz, that our understanding of the cap, how to use it, TAM, GAM, all of this kind of stuff, that all becomes important in terms of every decision you make. So I think that what we tried to do was to not only make decisions that we're comfortable with for today, but make sure that other discussions that are going on, that there's enough money available to continue those discussions. I was pretty hard on that fact. I didn't want certain players that we've spent some time with in the last few months becoming going out the window based upon picks today. I wanted to make sure that we kept every discussion alive and yet still took advantage of the opportunities that were in front of us today.
When you look at an expansion draft, you've already obviously been involved in one years ago, obviously a different league, different kind of situation. Even before the names come out, are you thinking depth? I know you're thinking possibility of moving players potentially. There's always that. Are you thinking depth? Are you thinking starters? How do you approach that?
So when the list comes out, you have certainly an idea what it might look like. But your first thing is to just assess the talent in the list.
Over 300 names you had to go through.
Yeah, so. For sure. And look, with the number of players that teams could protect, and with the added fact that homegrown players then are pretty much automatically protected. You look hard at that list to try to figure out players that you feel are talented enough or experienced enough to go on the field right away. And then you also try to really think about value. Maybe look, if you consider Raheem Edwards as a left-sided guy, if you consider Yuka Raitala as a left-sided guy, now Raheem is capable of playing as a left-sided midfielder. So certainly you could put those two on the left side and build from there. But it also means that you've got some flexibility when you have discussions with other teams because you feel like you've got surplus in certain spots. And if you match up some of those decisions with what teams around the league are looking for, and in players who can play out wide on both sides become important parts of building teams. And if you think about the best teams in the world, not only do they have players that can defend out wide, but they have players that go forward, that create opportunities that are part of the attack. And so, I discussed Omar Gabr a little bit today before we started, because as a possible right back, Omar is a player who is doing some really good things going forward. He's fast. He can. If the player in front of him comes inside, he can be wide. If the player prefers to move out to the line, he can be someone who goes forward on the inside. So, you're looking for players that you see football in them, and you start to think, okay, if I put this guy behind that player, what does it look like? And so you brainstorm a lot in terms of having a picture of what your team looks like.
Well, I also see Bob Bradley in this. With apologies to Tyler Miller, I just haven't seen enough of him playing. The four players that I look at, these are guys who are not afraid to work. frankly, when I see them play. Like, they're not afraid to get after it, and that certainly fits with what you've always, basically preached on the pitch. Is that something that came into effect with these 4 players?
It is, Dave, but it's funny how that works. I mean, sometimes over the years people say, they almost say it like, well, you just need hard workers. Look,
no.
you need good footballers,
you got to be able
right?
to put it in the back of the net.
But having said that, if you want to be a team that wins the ball back quickly, if you want to be a team that can press, then you've got to have guys that are committed in those ways. And so if your message when you start training is going to be that look, here's the kind of football we want to play. All right, we don't want to be a team that ends up just playing very deep and far away from our own goal. We want to be a team that has an ability to push up the field, to win the ball back quickly when we lose it. Then you've got to have players that you are comfortable that they can handle those challenges. And I've enjoyed over the years attacking players that sometimes people thought couldn't do that. And now saying, come on, if you see Messi work hard when the ball turns over, if you see most recently what De Bruyne means for Man City, right? Then if that's the kind of football we want to play, then everybody's got to take part. And my experience is that good players, they take a lot of pride in the kind of football that the team can play. And so creating that picture from day one and having guys that have the mentality, the football intelligence to go in that direction, I think that's really important.
Now, obviously, the holidays coming upon us, but there's certainly no rest for you guys as we're just months away. What's next for you? What's next for Bob Bradley on the schedule?
Yeah, it's a mix of finalizing our staff and, of course, continuing these different discussions with players. So if I look at everything that's happened in the last few months, I've been in many different countries. I think we've got the ball rolling with some interesting discussions, but getting certain things done, the right number, figuring out who are the agents that are going to move it the fastest, who are the ones that are handling the players' side of things. So the work that goes into actually, he put his heart on his sleeve. I think he put something out on Instagram or something as a way of expressing how he felt to the fans there. And so he was absolutely committed for 1 year to hold that trophy up. And so to be there and to see it and to know how much he's put into it, look, that's what sports is all about. That's the part that sometimes gets missed when people are on social media and having opinions, which is all fine, but that part of saying, look, I don't care. I'm strong, and this is what I want to be about, and knowing how committed he was to being a leader on a team that would win something, and seeing him hold up the trophy in front of all those Toronto fans, for my family, that was a special moment.
Well, first father and now son, MLS Cup champions. Congratulations to you. Bob, thanks so much for taking the time. Congratulations on expansion draft day here, and I look forward to more with you in the future.
Good, Dave. Thanks.
Thanks so much to LAFC manager Bob Bradley. That was immediately after the expansion draft and his thoughts. We'll hear from GM John Thorrington next. It's the LAFC expansion draft special. Dave Denholm with you here on ESPN LA 710.